All right. So, a few minutes ago, I watched a review of, Threshold did a review of Santa Barbara. I've got it. So I watched their review and I found a lot of it interesting. And my first reaction was to say, wow, that's a honest and yet a little bit tough review of the scenery. And if it's honest, it's honest. That's just the way it is. But then I also wanted to load it up, and see what my impressions were. And so that's what I've decided to do. And some of it is I think will be in defense of what they said, and some of it maybe not. Maybe soften the edges here a little bit. Um, so I mean, okay. So first, let me start right here. Sitting on the runway in a Cessna 208, looking out. This is um, runway 25, obviously. And, honestly, it looks beautiful. Just looking straight ahead this way, it looks really good. Um, because what's my eye drawn to? It's drawn over to the tower, the arrangements of these buildings over here, the runway layouts, the pappies, the scenery around it, which Microsoft is, basically handing that to all the devs. They get all that area around it to plant a very nice scenery. And I've been over to the FBO. Hold on, let me bring up my camera control here real quick. Actually, I'm going to hold off on the FBO because um, it's kind of um, it's usually people's second thought. Honestly, at an airport like this, it might be their first thought. But you know, there's that. I'm going to leave that up, and let's circle on around. Okay, believable looking parking lot, that sort of a thing. They pointed out the trees, which you can see are, those X-planes slash uh, prepare 3D kind of trees where they take two polygons and they intersect them, and then intersect them with a horizontal one too. My understanding is that Asobo doesn't have any trees available that you can put, like you can move and place. They've got their generated trees, but you can't move them, you can't place them in sceneries yet. Okay, so we're all gonna have to live with that. Every airport that gets created is probably gonna have this kinds of trees, and it's something that Asobo is gonna have to address at some point, unless they like these kinds of trees in their sim. But in terms of the parking lot, the way it looks very realistic. And I've seen these chain link fences in other sims, and they don't look nearly as good. All right, so let's go inside and take a look at a couple of things. I'm going to taxi over to the terminal. So, and so yeah, that looks really good. If I had any criticism, I would say it looks a little bit too perfect. Uh, you know, I think Threshold got it right. There should be more uh, tire marks, all over the place. There should be, overlaying this. They really, that would be more realistic. But it looks like realistic concrete, if nothing else. Sitting inside the cockpit is the important thing. I mean, they're not making a work of art. If they are, then it's a functional work of art. So, so we're taxiing in. You know, how do you want to criticize here? They, in general, in Sims, they make everything look better than it actually is in real life. And let me show you an example of that when we get over to the terminal. And this is true about every airport I've ever seen made, third party or otherwise. Okay, so one of the things that they pointed out, well, I'll tell you what, we'll get up here and I'll I'll show it. But taxiing right here, it has a feel of a real, airport. A very clean real airport, but a real airport. And then when we get out, when I get over there, then we'll pop out of the cockpit and look at some of the other things. So there's not a whole lot of parking places over here by the terminal. Okay, so here, I'm going to stop right here. Okay, so I'm in the airplane, and Threshold pointed out that, and rightly so, I think, that these taxiway lines are jagged. And you can barely catch a hint of it here. But, if you're flying, you're really not going to see it. So if you're going to get out and look at it, then yes, you're going to see it. And take it for what it is. Be nice if they weren't jagged, but on the other hand, does it really impact anything? Let's look at these over here on the side here. Now, move this out of the way. Now you can see it. Look right there. Now if I'm taxiing along, is this where my eye is going? Well, maybe. Oh, actually, the airplanes that were here are gone. So now I've got all kinds of taxi locations. And the guy isn't standing right in the middle of the parking spot too, so it even gets better and better. But it looks pretty good from here. Okay, so I'm going to pause right here for a moment. Their comments about the roof are well-founded, I think. Spanish-style roofs, which is what this is. It doesn't look Spanish at this point. It looks like a flat. I don't know what it is. Metallic, maybe. Some kind of metal, that sort of a thing. And you're starting to see some of the problems with the windows, which Threshold also pointed out. And I think the reason that that's true is because if I were to guess, they took a photo of this or something, or took some photos, and maybe put them on a 3D model and then did some cleanup to them. So those are 3D windows, but they look blurry. So this is if you're in an airliner, and I'm not sure that's a fair. I mean, if you're sitting here, you're going to be probably in some sort of an airliner, either a CRJ or a, or Embraer, or one or the other, something like that. And this is kind of what you're going to see. Let me go outside. Let me reset my position. Let's see if I can make this work. And let's speed that up a little bit. Come over here and we'll do some review on the outside. So let's look at the textures on the ground first. I got to remember to switch modes here. I've got to. Okay, so looking at the textures, pluses and minuses. It looks very good, but it doesn't look like concrete. His point about it looking like white asphalt or light-colored asphalt is probably true. Jagged edges along the seams here, so it makes it look kind of bitmappy. Okay, and really, honestly, I'm going to say something in a little bit about that. But first, let's go over here. Oops. Hello. Now you can see. It's a little bit too fast, I think. Okay, so now you can see. It looks to me like they took a picture and then put a 3D box here and then inlaid it. And so you get this kind of blurry thing, and it does look kind of like stucco, and this does look like rain came down here and just sort of dripped down and left deposits. So yeah, so all right, it did. And then okay, so we don't want to go inside there. You get a little bit. If I could control this thing well enough. Hold on. Apologies. Slow it down. Okay, so now you can kind of see. And I'm a stickler for windows you can see, not a stickler, but I love seeing where you can, there's some transparency to windows. So yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed about not being able to see inside, but you got this. Yeah, and some of the bitmaps, if you go down here, from here, if you're in an airliner, so let me just play the CRJ thing here, and uh, you'll be sitting about here. Well, I'm probably not that low. Man, this thing's sensitive. Yeah, this is obviously low texture quality. That's okay. That's okay. That's decent. So yeah, it'd be nice if they used a concrete texture, replace that for sure. And let's go up here. That probably shouldn't be that shiny. I understand that, they've got to deal with the fact that this thing over here is a fairly complex roof. So if they make this complex and leave that flat because it's so complex, I don't know, maybe they could do something with PBR to straighten that out if we wanted to do that. And yeah, that should be shiny. They've got their points. Threshold had their points, and they're pretty good ones for the most part, I think. Um, but they were a little, I think not only maybe the criticism was a little, may have been a little harsh. I'm not going to say it was, but on the other hand, um, oh, look, bicycles. What cool is that? Would like to see clear windows here and here. Things I'd like to see, my own personal preferences. And they give them a 6 out of 10. I would, I'd give them probably a 7, 7.5 maybe, but that's my personal thing. I can get their point about 6, but 7, 7.5. They can't do anything about the trees yet. And I'll say this too, and this annoys me too. You should not have a taxiway sign on the friggin' runway. Where is it? Right there. That's, no. So yeah. Okay, so let's go over the FBO real quick. Uh, Signatures over here. They've got an old building right there. That's it. It's always been a bit of a pet peeve for me that you tell I don't have a Xbox controller. It's always been a pet peeve of mine that, what are we doing here? Okay, that's all right. We'll roll with that. It's always been a pet peeve of mine that you buy a high-end scenery and um, they ignore the FBOs. Well, this thing really wants to go. And that's not completely ignored. That looks pretty decent. Looks better than I see at a lot of places. Oh, that's what's going on. It must have kicked my park. Oh, I never put my parking brake on. All right, I better fix this in a hurry. Parking brake. All right, we'll park here. I'm not going to be real critical of that either. Oh my gosh, what am I doing over here? This airplane is mocking me. Well, we can get a better look at the parking lot anyway. You brought your own airplane to the airport and you're going to taxi in. But does that look good? You know, that looks good. I wonder if they're going to charge me for parking. This is fun. I wonder how long it'll be before we'll have cars in this sim. Cars and trucks. Okay, I'll go this way. All right. Yeah, Sobo's got some work to do. I think it's all part of growing pains. And to say this about who is it that made this? I mean, it's Orbx, but there's a particular dev that made it. Um, in their defense, I think part of the issues, come from the fact that in MSFS you can see everything better. Um, and yeah, the PBR needs some work, but you can it just becomes more obvious in MSFS 2020, and then it was in either both prepared and X-Plane. I especially prepared. I've always thought prepared had a little of a unidentifiable blurriness to it. At least on my sim it did, and that's not here anymore. So, when they do a port of an airport like this, that's kind of stuff can just show up. And, it's just the way it is right now. By the way, that radar antenna, that's not good. I don't know what's going on. I'm running 4K here, and that is just bizarre. So, yeah. But those are my thoughts. Sitting in the cockpit, taxiing along, you're not going to see that many of these things. You'll see the taxiway sign that's out on the runway. You'll see, if you're looking at these little lines down here, you'll see that stuff. But you have to look. I don't necessarily taxiing along like this see problems with the concrete. Like I said, am I looking at a work of art, or am I looking, at an airport from an airplane? Criticism is fair. I do think the textures on the airport, which and on the FBO could be, especially on the terminal, since you're looking right at them, wouldn't be a bad idea. But looking at it like this, taxiing by, looking at it, looks realistic. It looks good. It's a place I want to fly. I do love this airport. I love the way it's just right here at the foot of these mountains. I've always loved this airport in any sim, and I think this does it justice. I, I do. I like it. Um, I mean, having an affinity towards an airport doesn't make it. I mean, you can go either way with it. You could get real nitpicky and say, I love this airport. I wish you'd have done a better job. Or you could say, hey, listen, I just love this airport, and I don't care. I'm just grateful that somebody did one. You go either way. Maybe I'm on the latter side. I'm not sure. But sitting here looking at this from this distance here, it looks beautiful. The closer you get, if you're looking that close, it's, part of me wants to say, well, it is what it is. Don't ruin your experience by, looking that close. That's about all you can do. But would we like to see it better? Sure. But then we'd like to see a bunch of other airports too. Let's see, what did I pay for this airport? I think I paid about 13 bucks US. And I've been thinking about this for a while too. When it comes to these airports, the devs are thinking about this. You don't have to do hardly any of the area around the airport anymore. So you might be able to do more airports or spend more time working on the um, the details inside the airport. This is Atlantic. Look at that. I did not see this before. It looks okay. You know, there's time to work on these things to make them better. Again, this chain link fence looks better than any chain link fence I've ever seen, and that adds something. Um, the vehicles look realistic. They don't look bright green, bright orange, bright blue, bright red only. So that adds something. Fuel trucks look decent. Atlantic looks beautiful to me. I mean, yeah, I see the roof. But if I were going to be parking here, this is about where I'd be parking. This is where I'd be looking. It looks good. Wish it had clear glass, but then that's at least slightly clear. Because modeling the inside takes so much time, and it's, you know, but there's probably windows on the other side which may come through. But do I want people to be spending tons of time developing the insides of things like that? There's a lot of other airports out there. There's a lot of other airports. It's a balance. Yeah. So I love it. I think it's very much worth the money. I think it's got some things that I'd like to see improved that we'd all, isn't there with anything in a sim? Isn't there with everything in a sim? I hope that's fair. Oh, yeah, we should look at it at night too, right? If we're going to go through all this, let's look at it real quickly at night. Okay, I mean, that looks beautiful. Yeah, that's where the painted on stuff starts to look a little bad. All right. So again, that looks good. It looks good. And that's what I love about Santa Barbara is the mountains. That view coming into this airport is just a stunner. I'm a sucker for those kinds of airports. It looks really good. So take it for what it is. If you like it, get it. If you can afford it, and or if you buy airports. If you don't, that's all right too. But the approach into runway 25 coming across these houses is just gorgeous. Yep, yep. That's all I wanted to say. I hope it helps.